Many of you watching this will never book an Airbnb in New York again. We'll talk about the huge impact this is going to have on tourism, why it's happening, and what your alternatives are. Then a few new things happening in the Big Apple in September. You don't want to miss it. This past Tuesday, some rules went into effect that will make it practically impossible for many Airbnbs to ever operate in this city again. Here are the rules. Under the new system, rentals shorter than 30 days are only allowed if hosts register with the city. Hosts must commit to being physically present in the home for the duration of the rental. Sharing living quarters with their guest, more than 2 guests at a time, are not allowed, meaning families are effectively barred. And starting Tuesday, hosts who violate the rules could face fines of up to $5,000 for repeat offenders, and platforms could be fined up to $1,500 for transactions involving illegal rentals. Let's break this down. Gone are the days of someone owning multiple units in a building and renting them out on weekends for people to come party. A great many Airbnbs in New York were just private apartments that were being rented out on the short term, and that is now going away. So Airbnb, as most of you know it in the city, is now gone, and the question is, why? Well, this article title gives us a pretty good clue. There are more Airbnb listings in New York than apartments to rent, and the rising cost of living here, of finding a halfway affordable apartment, definitely a big factor in the city's decision. City officials estimated there were roughly 10,800 Airbnb listings as of March 2023 that were illegal short-term rentals. They have argued that renting those homes to tourists and visitors instead of New Yorkers exacerbates the city's acute housing shortage and makes it even more expensive to live here. Residents who live in buildings with short-term rentals have complained that transient guests bring a greater risk of crime, excessive noise, and cleanliness problems. I personally saw this myself when I lived in the Village. There was a constant stream of people in my building. You would see people coming up and down the stairs with suitcases. I even once saw some drunk tourists who were staying at an illegal Airbnb in my old building trying to sneak into the window through the fire escape because they got locked out. Airbnb did have a pretty strong response to this. Airbnb says short-term home rentals help the city's tourism economy, especially in parts of the city where there are few hotels. The city is sending a clear message to millions of potential visitors who will now have fewer accommodation options when they visit New York City. You are not welcome, said Theo Yedinsky, Global Policy Director for Airbnb. No shock that the amount of Airbnbs that were available to book in New York has drastically dropped after that ruling. It's actually gone down by 15,000 listings. Just 3,400 New York City apartments are still available for short-term bookings on the website, according to data from a watchdog group. Nearly 9,000 fewer full property vacation rentals than the month before. Now, Airbnb didn't go down without a fight. They've got money. Airbnb attempted to sue New York City in June, but a judge dismissed the case in August, ruling that the restrictions were entirely rational. Airbnb did not comment on whether it would appeal the decision. And let's not forget the elephant in the room, New York City hotels. There is also the influence of the hotel industry, a competitor of platforms like Airbnb. The Hotel Trades Council, a powerful force in local politics, an ally of Mayor Eric Adams, has long fought the expansion of the platforms. And we'll get to hotels in a little bit, but what happens if you booked an Airbnb for your upcoming trip in December, January? Existing reservations with a check-in on or before December 1st will not be canceled to mitigate impact on hosts and guests, Airbnb said. The company said it would refund Airbnbs associated with those stays. Airbnb bookings will be canceled for existing reservations for stays that start on or after December 2nd, and guests will receive refunds. On September 5th, all Airbnb listings without registration numbers or exemptions will be converted to long-term stays of 30 days or more if the host's calendar settings allow those lengthy stays. Otherwise, those listings will be deactivated. Where does that leave you to stay if you're coming to New York? Well, we'll start with the obvious, that you're gonna have a lot less options for Airbnbs, as many hosts can't meet these standards. I imagine that Airbnbs in parts of New Jersey and Long Island are going to get more popular, although keep in mind many towns like Jersey City and Weehawken already have Airbnb bans on short-term rentals, just like the city. I also think some hosts are gonna skirt the rules. Maybe they'll put a friend or a relative in the apartment and say they're the owner, they're gonna be there for the entire stay. My other question is, how can the city really enforce if the owner is going to be on the premises without doing some kind of a spot check? What if they just locked one of the doors? Or they could just offer 30-day stays at the 7-day price and negotiate with the renter on the website or off the site. I think hotels are the big winners here. They're gonna see a boom. I think their occupancy rate is going to go up, and I think it is going to cost you more to stay in Manhattan than it already does. That was one area where I did think Airbnb was generally better prices. And for bigger groups, it's easier to put more people into a single apartment than it is a hotel room. That's who I really feel worst for out of this whole situation. Are families traveling, groups traveling together? Your options are gonna be a lot more limited for short-term stays. I wonder if the city is gonna make any concessions for Airbnb and larger groups. I don't know if this is necessarily the end of the story for Airbnb and bigger groups in the city, but it's certainly going to be interesting going forward. I don't know if Airbnb has any more options left. Switching gears, big news from Mayor Eric Adams, who has said on record that the migrant crisis will destroy New York City.
I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City.
Administration officials estimate that as many as 10,000 new arrivals are coming each month and claim that the migrants are drawn by the city's unique right to shelter rule, which legally mandates a bed for anyone who asks for one. More than 110,000 migrants have arrived in the city over the past year, according to City Hall. Even many of my tourists watching, you are not going to be hidden from the migrant crisis in the city. Just walk past the Roosevelt Hotel, where only a few weeks ago there were many migrants who were sleeping outside on the streets. It is a very hot button political issue, and you're going to be hearing all about this during the upcoming elections. I can promise you that. You've got about a week left, but 2-for-1 Broadway ticket deals are still on until September 17th. Check the website I'm gonna put down below in the description, but a lot of really good shows still available. 2 tickets for the price of 1. MJ the Musical, Harry Potter, Moulin Rouge. If you're in the city right now, you've got to take advantage of this if you're a fan of Broadway. If you're in New York from September 14th to September 24th, the Feast of San Gennaro is back in Manhattan's Little Italy. It's a lot of fun. I have gone many times in the past. Stock up on cannolis and all the Italian food you can eat. And my advice is go during the weekdays, because on weekends it gets absolutely slammed. It's not cheap, but it is a lot of fun. I actually did an entire video about the feast 2 years ago. Give that a look. Good news for my viewers who love taking cool pictures. The Love Sculpture is returning to New York after 4 years away. From Wednesday, September 13th to Tuesday, October 24th, 12-foot piece of public art will be back at Central Plaza in Rockefeller Center, so go snap some iconic photos. Some positive news on the New York tourism front. NYC & Co. is predicting 63 million visitors this year to the Big Apple, just shy of the 66 million that visited in 2019. That's up 12% from last year, and the hotel occupancy has been at an average of 87.5% this year. And remember the effective short-term Airbnb ban? I think that number is going to continue to climb. I also think it's going to be a record holiday season for New York, and we're gonna have a lot of updates about what's coming to the city for the holidays in a video real soon. And I just love this article from Time Out New York, which stated NYC is one of the most expensive cities to be happy in the US, where you'll need an annual income of $145,028 to put a smile on your face. The only 2 cities that are more expensive to be happy: Santa Barbara, California, and Honolulu, Hawaii. New York had a really big update last month. Prices are up on the subway, and there's some new technology out there that's gonna try and stop fare evasion. Head to this video next for an important update.